Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the home of British motor racing, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, playing host to the third event of Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Welcome along. Hopefully, we will be bringing you two cracking races tonight. I think we probably will. It's the first time that the F4 iRacing Trophy has raced on the full Silverstone Grand Prix layout in Season 1. You may remember we actually visited Silverstone twice, once on the international circuit, once on the national. Well, tonight we link those two together for the longest, one of the fastest and certainly the most prestigious racetrack in the UK. My name's Andy McEwen, up here in the commentary box for you to talk you through all of the action. And, well, if it's anything like Snetterton a week ago, plenty of action there will be. Certainly an entertaining night of racing, which in the end saw Luke Browning and Marion Kramers take the spoils, with Luke Browning extending his championship advantage, arriving here to Silverstone. 43 points is his cushion now over Frederick Lubin in second place in the championship, with Kramers moving up to third with that reversed grid win a week ago. 43 points sounds like a lot, but there are still 100 points left on the table. 25 points available for a race win, with 4 races still to go. 2 tonight and 2 next week on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit to round the season out. So a 43-point advantage can disappear in just 1 or 2 bad races. And certainly given the nature of the slipstreaming, close quarters, wheel-to-wheel action we're expecting tonight, Luke Browning certainly does not have this all sealed up just yet. Well, in the Pro Sim class, meanwhile, it is all slightly tighter. Alex Palau has the points lead, 78 points for him, with Pablo Lopez second on 68. But the big news there is that Alex Palau cannot be with us tonight. He is off taking part in some real-world testing over in the United States, and that means that Pablo Lopez has a brilliant opportunity to try and take that championship lead going to the final event at Brands Hatch. So lots of potential talking points, 2 great races coming your way, and qualifying getting underway in just under 15 minutes time. As you can see in the top left corner of your screen, we're in the 2.5-hour free practice session that takes place before the competitive mileage begins later in the evening, and we are now ticking towards the end of that. Before we start looking at some of the practice times, though, let me bring in my co-commentator for the evening. As ever, I'm delighted to be joined by Damien Meaden, the press officer for British Formula 4. Damien, welcome back. The third race night of 4, the penultimate event of Season 2 of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. And although it's a shorter season this time than we had last time out, we've still seen plenty of storylines developing over the first 2 race nights and 4 races of the season. And as we move into the final half now, it's going to be really interesting to see how some of those storylines resolve themselves.
Yep. Evening, Andy. Evening, everybody. Welcome along. And thanks for being part of the broadcast. Yep, as you say, Andy, it's a fantastic circuit, Silverstone. We've got a bumper grid, several of the championship battles really reaching fever pitch now. And I'm really pleased to reassure the audience that we have put the virtual safety car driver on furlough. So we're in for 2 action-packed 20-minute races tonight, and I can't wait.
Yes, absolutely, with no interruption to the racing. So we're expecting it to be a full-on racing extravaganza. And this really is the perfect circuit, isn't it, for this package, this car, this style of racing. We've heard nothing but positivity, really, have we, amongst the drivers about the kind of racing we're expecting tonight. And that's because the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit is wide, it's open, there are lots of long straights where you can get that slipstream, but even more opportunities to launch an attack on the car in front. So unlike perhaps the first 2 racetracks, Donington and Snetterton, here there is an abundance of places where you can make an overtake, and that should lend itself to good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a circuit that rewards bravery. And I think the corner that we've just seen Roman Belinsky go through there into Brooklands, it'll be very interesting to see 1 or 2 drivers try a move into there later on tonight. So I think the toe might be quite crucial here, particularly down that really long hanger straight and into the braking zone at Stowe. Plenty of opportunities. We saw plenty of action into the club chicane when we were on the international layout last year. So plenty of opportunities. It'll be interesting to see who takes them.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how this qualifying session works out as well, because they haven't got a huge amount of time to get their laps in, and it's quite a long lap. As I said, it's the longest racetrack in the United Kingdom, well over 3.5 miles. So if you're out there on a qualifying run, you make a mistake and your lap time is gone, you'll have limited opportunities to get more laps in. Also, you can get quite a long way around the lap, 90 seconds into the lap, make a mistake, and the whole thing goes to pot completely. So linking together a good, clean, fast lap in qualifying will be a challenge.
And we've seen that for so many drivers, starting towards the back of the grid for race one, and then being mighty quick and making up the progress, showing that really, had the qualifying lap gone a little bit better, they would have been up there fighting, right from the get-go. So it really is crucial that you nail that lap and give yourself the best chance for race two.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Race 2 being the full reverse grid, of course, so that's where you need a little bit of luck, really, to survive the opening stages and stay in contention going into the second half of the race. This is one of the drivers, I think, Damien, likely to be setting the pace tonight. Certainly looking at the practice times, which you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. Roman Belinsky, who we welcome back to the championship, actually. He missed the previous rounds at Snetterton because he was, again, taking part in some real-world testing. But we mentioned a week ago, and we'll hopefully get a chance to chat to him about this later on this evening. He's running the Carlin colours. He's racing for Carlin in the iRacing Trophy, and that's because Carlin have announced Roman Belinsky for the 2021 season. And I think exciting things are on the horizon for this driver, aren't there?
Yeah, of course, we mentioned that briefly in the broadcast last week, but Roman was up at Alton Park with Carlin, his new team, as you've mentioned, so perhaps we'll get a chance to talk to him firsthand about it a little bit later. But if we cast our minds back to Donington Park at the start of this second season of the British F4 iRacing Trophy, he really was up there with the likes of Luke Browning, Alex Palau, Pablo Lopez, really, getting the headline results. So Roman, a very experienced user of iRacing out of the sim racing technology in general, so it'll be interesting to see if he can pick up where he left off.
Yeah, definitely. Fastest in practice at the moment is Roman Belinsky with a 1 minute 50.263, and interestingly, that's nearly 0.6 of a second faster than Luke Browning, the championship leader, the man that's really been dominating proceedings in the championship so far. Luke Browning has won 3 of the first 4 races this season, including the double, of course, at Donington at the start of the year, and a little bit off the pace here. Now, this is only practice, but we've seen in the practice sessions previously that Luke, when he's fast, he goes out there in practice, bangs in a quick lap, and really sort of marks his territory, doesn't he? But he looks as though he might not be the pace setter tonight, and that, Damien, rather excites me, because putting Luke Browning on the back foot usually guarantees some action and excitement as he tries to work his way back to the front, and it also opens the opportunity here, doesn't it, for other drivers maybe to steal a little bit of that limelight.
Well, I don't want to ruin your evening at this early stage, Andy, but he has also completed, by far the fewest laps of the drivers he's around on the timesheet. So your likes of Belinsky and Julian Rodriguez have all been doing sort of between 30 and 50 laps over the last hour or so. They've been out here practicing. Luke Browning only making his way around his 12th flying lap now. So there's still time for him to make that up. And if we've seen anything, it's that Luke Browning is really established at pulling a rabbit out of the hat during qualifying. But the point you made about the other drivers needing to capitalize on it is absolutely correct. As I think we'll get on to in a little bit, he can mathematically win the championship tonight. So the onus is really on the other drivers to take that to him and prevent him from doing so.
Yes, he really needs to try and win this first race, doesn't he? If Browning wins the first one, that puts a lot of pressure then on people like Frederick Lubin and Marin Kramers, and arguably Kayaski as well, who still sits 4th in the championship, to really get a move on and try and take some points back out of him in race number 2. I was about to start saying nice things about Mackenzie Creswell, and then he threw himself at the scenery going through Maggots and Beckett. So we'll instead move on to this driver, Anthony DL, new name to the championship, racing for Team Fordzilla. He will be part of Fordzilla's pretty rapid Pro Sim category challenge. He currently sits 5th overall in this practice session, third of the Pro Sim drivers, and indeed third of the Fordzilla drivers on the grid. DL making his debut in the iRacing Trophy tonight. Fordzilla looking strong, aren't they? And they have been all along in the Pro Sim category. I mentioned this slightly different dynamic that we'll have tonight with the absence of Alex Palau, but even that, I don't think, is going to stop the Fordzilla train rolling on towards the team's championship. They've got this very healthy cushion over JHR Developments and Fortec Motorsport in the team's championship. Fordzilla, Damien, have really shown us all how it's done, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 70-odd points now they lead in the team's championship, so going over the halfway stage of the season now, the rounds are going to start to tick down. I think it's probably a case of when, not if, Fordzilla are going to wrap up this team's championship at the first time of asking, which is great. But they've been absolutely rapid, as you say, really locking out the podium in the Pro Sim class. So I guess in the Sim class as well, the the onus is on those drivers to challenge the Fordzilla boys just as much as it is for some of the pro drivers to maybe topple Luke Browning from the throne.
Yeah, I mean, there have been pro sim drivers that have been quick, haven't there? We've seen good things out of Alex Johnson earlier on in the season, for example. Ashley Beard was on the pace at Snetterton a week ago. So there are other pro sim drivers out there that I think can challenge Fordzilla, but they seem to have this knack, don't they, for getting through those first few laps in good positions and then not really throwing it away. We saw some good teamwork from Fordzilla at Donington earlier in the year as well to guarantee a good haul of points from the first race of the season. So they certainly have the individual talent amongst their drivers, but they're capable of working well together as a team as well. Alex Johnson here, one of the drivers I mentioned, who has been a thorn in their side in the Pro Sim category so far. 10th fastest in practice at the moment for Alex Johnson, and looking at how his season has gone so far, well, it's been a little bit up and down, hasn't it? He did, though, have the class victory last time out in the reverse grid race. So Alex Johnson, I think his pace is undeniable, but maybe just staying out of trouble has been his biggest challenge.
Yeah, last time out for Alex Johnson, that debut victory in the Pro Sim class, the real highlight. So what will be interesting now is to see whether he can kick on and use that result, just as a bit of motivation to catch up to the Fordzilla guys. 26 points back from Pablo Lopez in second, and then another 10 up to Alex Palau at the top of the leaderboard. So he's another driver who's really got an opportunity tonight in Palau's absence to try and make up a bit of ground. So Alex Johnson's going to need to come out fighting tonight because, as I say, the races are ticking away, but he's definitely arriving here in good form.
Yeah, third in the championship, like you say, but arguably his target is not so much Palau now because Palau is not here. So it is that gap, isn't it, of 16 points to Pablo Lopez that he's really monitoring. Lopez is faster than him at the moment in this practice session, but I can't hammer home the point enough that this does not count towards anything. It simply gives us a rough idea of what sort of pace we can expect from the qualifying session, which is now less than 3 minutes away. Other drivers that have had interesting seasons so far, we had that brilliant result from Dan Blake at Donington with an overall podium and a second place in the Pro Sim category. There is the Year 1 racing driver, currently sits 10th in the Pro Sim category. Snetterton, though, was not quite such a successful night of racing, only 2 points scored, both of those in the first race of the day, so he will be looking to bounce back from that. He is just ahead in the championship of Ashley Beard, who I also said had a good time of it at Snetterton, the Vulcan sim racing driver. There he is going out of the first corner. One of the real standout performances, wasn't it, last time at Snetterton? He didn't just look into good results, but he genuinely was on the pace.
Sorry, Andy, you broke up there for me at the end of the last bit. I didn't quite catch what you were saying.
Apologies. I was saying Ashley Beard was impressive at Snetterton, not just looking into good results, but genuinely seemed to have front-running pace within the class.
Yeah, absolutely. And the story of Ashley's season really has been that it's continued to go from strength to strength. You know, it only picked up a solitary point from the first night at Donington Park, but then took 16 last time out at Snetterton. So definitely a driver who's grown as the series has gone on. And you never know, perhaps tonight will be the night that he gets that first podium finish.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got the ability to do it, hasn't he? But we shall see how he goes. Looks quick at the moment, actually, just outside the top 10 overall and well up there amongst the Pro Sim category. The timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, the names with a black stripe to the left of them, they are the pro drivers, real-world drivers, if you like, and then the sort of minty green, I still haven't quite decided what colour that is, but the greenish strip is the colour that denotes a Pro Sim driver, many of whom do race in the real world as well, but perhaps not in Formula 4 or perhaps not to a professional level. Well, that was fairly spectacular for Ashley Beard and something more akin to professional gymnastics maybe than professional racing, as a car spun going through the left-hander onto the Wellington Straight, and unsurprisingly, all of those cars involved zap straight back to the pit lane. Thankfully, this is only the free practice session. Just to remind you of how the format works then for the night, we are now only 30 seconds or so away from qualifying getting underway. After that, we go into our first 20-minute race of the night, the grid for which is based upon the qualifying results, and then the second race, that full reversed grid. So everyone who is classified as a finisher, essentially, at the end of the first race gets reversed. So if you win the first race, you're likely to be starting outside of the top 25. And that is certainly where there could be some peril on the horizon for the likes of Luke Browning and Roman Belinsky up there fighting for the championship. It's all well and good scoring good points out of that first race, but you've then got to go into survival mode a little bit for the second race of the night. free practice then is coming to a close. Qualifying coming up, Damien. I was going to ask you who your prediction is for pole position. I mean, it would be strange if either of us were to suggest anyone other than Luke Browning, given his astonishing qualifying record so far. Can anybody beat him tonight, though?
I think the short answer is yes, Andy. You know, Luke Browning does, as you say, and as he comes out of the pit lane, have an incredibly enviable record for qualifying in the iRacing Trophy. You know, we've touched on it many times. He's one of the more experienced drivers with iRacing and with sim racing in general. You know, and he's got a great track record. He's going to be hard to beat. But I think if we've seen anything from practice, there are a handful of drivers here that have an opportunity to pip him to the post. You know, Roman Belinsky putting in good times, a couple of his Fordzilla teammates up there in the mix as well. So I certainly don't think he's going to have it his own way.
No, well, let's see then. He's out on his outlap at the moment, Luke Browning. We ride on board with him going through Luffield. This would have been the final couple of corners on the original Silverstone Grand Prix layout, but it's been, well, over a decade now since they built the sort of infield section through Farm, Village, and the Loop, which has certainly opened up several more overtaking opportunities, lengthened the circuit as well, and they built the whole Silverstone Wing complex, which now becomes the start-finish area. Out of Copse Corner, down towards Maggots and Beckett's. Then Luke Browning building up speed here, but not yet on a timed lap because the tyres very much still not up to temperature. This is an outlap from the pit lane anyway. And Damien, they only have a limited amount of opportunities to get this lap in, don't they?
Yeah, and we've seen through the two events that we've had so far at Donington and Snetterton, people not timing that last lap perfectly. Once the clock hits 10 minutes, we'll go straight to the grid for the opening race. So some people have been trying to leave their best till last and thinking that it's, you know, as it would be in real life and you get to finish your last lap. But that's not the case. So you really need to get out on track as soon as you can in this session and start to build it up and put your best foot forward, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he is coming out of the final double apex right-hander at Club, where we are definitely monitoring track limits. That's an area where drivers can run wide over the edge of the white line and gain an advantage. Luke was nice and tidy, though, that time, as he starts now his first flying lap of the session, then heads through the right-hander at Abbey, the left-hander at Farm, and into the braking zone at Village. Careful on the exit there, not to run too wide. You want to be over to the right-hand side of the road for the Loop, which is the really tight left-hander. Opens out then flat out through the left-hander and out onto the Wellington Straight. And Luke Browning taking advantage of this lone qualifying format, so there's no traffic around him. Everyone else is qualifying simultaneously, so the other drivers are still all out there, but they all have their own virtual space to work with. No traffic around. They can just get their head down and focus on hitting their marks, hitting those apexes, carrying good speed through the corners. Luke Browning then approaching the halfway mark of this lap, out through Woodcote, right up against the wall, clearly not monitoring track limits there on the inside of the track, and then heads down into Copse Corner, which will be almost flat out, I'd have thought, in one of these Formula 3 Dalaras. Browning heads out of the right-hander down to Maggots and Beckett, speed really building now, and this is one of the most astonishingly fast and challenging sequences of corners in world motorsport, I think, and one of the most satisfying when you get it right. The Maggots-Beckett's complex, it's over in a matter of seconds, but Browning, when he comes out of there, I think we'll be feeling pretty happy with that. He hit all of the apexes, heads down the hanger straight into the braking zone at Stowe Corner now, hard on the brakes, bumpy braking zone, but it is uphill, so you can carry good speed into the right-hander, just as long as you don't run too wide over the curb. Again, inch perfect for Browning, down onto the brakes, into the Vale, and through the Club complex, through the left, through the right, don't run too wide over the curb, just about okay, and then he comes out through the final corner, across the start-finish line. Luke Browning then, the benchmark time is a 1:51.8. Well, we saw some lap times down in the 1-minute 50s in practice, but that is, Damien, still quicker than Roman Belinsky by about 100th of a second.
Yeah, but it's early days yet, Andy. They'll still be getting their tyres up to temperature, so over half of this qualifying session to go. I imagine that will just be a cycle lap for everybody, and they'll go and have another go at it in a moment. Pablo Lopez striking early blood in the Pro Sim class, leading Leon Penn and Anthony DL, the newcomer, so it'll be interesting to see how that battle develops.
Yes, indeed. We'll watch the times as they start coming in then. Browning fastest at the moment, Belinsky second, Lopez third, Penn fourth, DL fifth, as you said. Zemstra is then in sixth position. Nathaniel Hodgkiss, the Scottish driver, is in seventh position, ahead of the next group. My timing screen just went down. That was not good timing for the timing screen to disappear. There you go. Julian Rodriguez is 8th. Frederick Lubin is down in 9th. And Dan Blake inside the top 10. But still about half the field have not yet set a time. Kayaski just went 6th fastest. He will be looking to try and bounce back after a disappointing start to the season. Had such good pace at Donington Park, did Kayaski, but really wasn't able to capitalise on it because of some netcode issues in the first race, and that really put him out of position for the rest of the night. We're on board with Matthew Rees now, coming out of Copse Corner. Matthew Rees has yet to set a time. His first lap then was disallowed for track limits. That's the other thing that you need to watch out for here. If you have a lap time disallowed for track limits, then obviously it doesn't count towards your session results, and you then have even less opportunities to go and set a good lap time, and you potentially use the best of your tyres. So Rees is one of many drivers in that situation, and Damien, he really can't afford any more mistakes now. Otherwise, he's going to find himself not setting a lap time at all.
Yeah, absolutely needs to make sure he leaves himself enough leeway to get a lap in. Had a good start to life in the British F4 iRacing Trophy at Snetterton, did Matthew Rees. Picked up 2 points for 9th position in his first race, and then in his second race made his way through the reverse grid up to 6th position. So really showed some good racecraft there to make his way through the traffic and bring home a strong result. So he'll certainly be looking, I think, to follow that up with another one here at Silverstone.
Yeah, I think he will be. Kayaski then comes out of the Maggots-Beckett's complex. Pablo Lopez goes to the top. So we are now seeing some more improvements here as drivers get their tyres now right into the ideal operating window. Pablo Lopez onto provisional pole with his teammate, Fordzilla teammate Anthony DL, second on his debut. Browning down to third then, with Roman Belinsky fourth and Julian Rodriguez in fifth. Kayaski then, we ride on board now with the Carlin driver down into the Vale complex, and he was 6th a moment or two ago. He's now 15th. That just goes to show how many other drivers have managed to improve. Askey comes out of the final corner. 15th becomes 9th. So he jumps back into the top 10, but he'll be a little disappointed to find himself nearly 8/10 of a second off the top. Well, not only does it look like Luke Browning might not get this pole position, Damien, but it could well be that it's some of the pro sim drivers that are really presenting the biggest challenge. He's quicker than Belinsky, but right now those Fordzilla drivers are looking strong.
Yeah, and it's no mean feat to get a quick lap together around here. Particular attention, I'm told, being paid to track limits on the exit of Copse and at the club chicane. So 2 points where it's possible to run wide and get a little bit of a time advantage are being closely monitored. So they've really got to maximise every apex, every braking zone. Make sure you're getting on the throttle as early as you can. And it's working well for Pablo Lopez, who you can see on your screen now at the moment. Pole position by 17 thousandths from his teammate Anthony DL. And let's not forget, Luke Browning in third, who's only just ahead of Roman Belinsky, is a Team Fordzilla driver when he's not racing in the F4 iRacing Trophy. So this could be a really fascinating inter-team battle, if you like, at the front of the field.
Except they've been separated by Roman Belinsky, who goes ahead of Luke Browning, and to the very top went Leon Penn, but then he's immediately pipped again by Pablo Lopez. So Lopez goes back to the top again. Leon Penn second, Anthony DL third. It is a Pro Sim 1-2-3 now, 1-2-3-4, because Julian Rodriguez has jumped onto the front row as well. He's a quarter of a second slower than his teammate Pablo Lopez, but it is now Lopez and Rodriguez a Fordzilla 1-2 once again. And Luke Browning is down in 6th position. Now, that doesn't sound like a complete disaster, but bear in mind, he has been on pole position at the end of every single qualifying session we have ever had in the F4 iRacing Trophy, not just this season, but season 1 as well. So the fact that he's not even in the front 2 rows at the moment is certainly noteworthy. He's got another chance still to improve. We'll wait and see whether he can do so, though. He is ahead of Matthias Sagazetta in 7th. Frederick Lubin is 8th. Ashley Beard is 9th. And Kayaski in 10th. There is Browning, really on it now, going through Maggots and Beckett's. This is it, his last chance, realistically, to improve. And improve he must, really. It's not so much about beating Belinsky. He'd be quite happy, I suppose, to start just one place behind Belinsky. But the deeper into the field you start, Damien, the more likely you are to hit trouble in the early stages.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that over the 4 races we've had so far. The further back in the field you start, the more likely you are just to get caught up in those little instances of netcode, those little 50-50s where wheels bang together and somebody might get put out wide. So Luke Browning wants to stay as close to the front of the field as he can. He comes round the final corner now, and we'll see if it's going to be an improvement with his last lap.
Oh, it is onto the front row. Brilliant stuff from Luke Browning. He pulled that out of the hat when it counted. It's not going to be pole position, but he is at least onto the front row. So we know that Luke Browning is not going to continue his 100% pole record, The question is, who is it that will knock him off his perch? It looks like being Pablo Lopez, because Leon Penn cannot improve on his final lap. Neither can Lopez, so he still stands at just over a tenth of a second quicker than Browning. Julian Rodriguez, he's still on a lap. He's just completing that lap. Can he improve on third? Yes, he can. Julian Rodriguez to pole position by 5/100ths of a second. What a brilliant effort that was, right at the death. Julian Rodriguez snatches pole position away from Pablo Lopez, and Luke Browning is back off the front row. That was fantastic. What a late effort, and I'm really impressed there that so many drivers were able to improve their lap times right at the end of the session. You'd expect them to have had the best of the tyres by that point. It's Julian Moreno then that gets the pole position, and it's a Fordzilla 1-2 with Pablo Lopez alongside, looking, of course, to take the championship lead in the Pro Sim class in Alex Palau's absence. Then it's the overall championship leader, Luke Browning, with Leon Penn for company on row 2, Anthony Diel and Roman Belinsky together on row 3 ahead of Alex Johnston, and Kevin Zempstra with Matthias Zagazeta and Nathaniel Hodgkiss. Good effort that to round out the top 10. David Castilla and Frederick Lubin are on the 6th row of the grid together, and just behind them we have Ashley Beard with another strong showing there. 13th on the grid, he shares that 7th row with Kai Askey. Georgi Dimitrov and Roldan Rodriguez are next ahead of Matthew Rees and Matthew Crisp, the two Matts together on row 9. Jaco Van Platt and Silas Krag-Vrolik round out the top 20 ahead of Thomas Pintos, Dan Blake, James Headley and Dean Timms at the back. So, well, Dean Timms will not be at the back, I can tell you that, but James Headley will be towards the back, with possibly Ryan Micallef, Mackenzie Creswell, Joseph Loke and Marion Kramers, but none of those drivers got a lap in that session. So lots of times being disallowed for track limits, and that, I'm afraid, could become a story going into the race. Well, that first race is about to get underway then. Damien, very quickly, brilliant effort that from Julian Rodriguez. Can he or his Fordzilla teammate Pablo Lopez get a race win here?
Yeah, that's really put the cat amongst the pigeons, hasn't it? And Luke Browning will be thinking about trying to clear them as quickly as he can, if he can, during this race, because, of course, the more they all battle at the front, the more he might leave himself vulnerable to, the likes of Belinsky, Frederick Lubin and co behind as well.
Indeed. Well, the stage is set, isn't it, for an absolutely thrilling 5th round of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, just waiting for the last couple of drivers to get into place, which they now have, so the start procedure can begin. Julian Rodriguez and Pablo Lopez on the front row together, the white and red car of Luke Browning. Third on the grid is the championship leader. He can win the title tonight. He really needs 2 solid and clean races. Let's see if that happens then. The red lights are on. They go out now. We're away and racing on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Good start made from pole position by Julian Rodriguez. He will hold the lead down to Abbey Corner. Luke Browning comes up alongside Pablo Lopez to challenge for the second place. Goes right around the outside of the Fordzilla driver. He's getting his elbows out in the early stages here. Luke Browning is on the outside going down into Village. That is a vulnerable place to be, but he's left enough room, and that gives him the inside line for the left-hander at the loop. The side-by-side action behind him as well, between Anthony Diel and Roman Belinsky. Belinsky there in the 31 car at the inside, and behind there is absolute carnage. Ashley Beard, I'm afraid, involved. Matthias Zagazeta, Roldan Rodriguez, Nathaniel Hodgkiss, after that really solid qualifying performance, is also off the road. But as the leaders bear down on Brooklands, it's still side-by-side for second, and Browning is now losing out, perhaps, because Pablo Lopez is back alongside him. Roman Belinsky's there as well. Damien, this is exactly the kind of racing we wanted to see, and Browning and Belinsky are already side-by-side.
Yeah, absolutely. Tremendous start, and I think Browning and, was it Lopez, must have been side-by-side then for what, a good quarter of the lap, maybe pushing on a third, so tremendous start. And Roman Belinsky, ever the opportunist, saw them fighting and absolutely went for the inside line through Luffield, and he's managed to get himself up and ahead of Browning. That's great stuff from him.
4 places gained from Belinsky in the first half a lap. That's astonishing. That is a driver who is not willing to give this championship to Luke Browning without a fight. He's ahead of his championship rival, and now he needs to try and take as many points out of him as he can. Down the hanger straight, Slipstream starts to bring them all back together again. On board with Belinsky, looking back at Browning, who sweeps to the inside line. Look at the run that he had in the draft, and he makes that look easy. Gets back into second place through Stowe Corner, and Belinsky has it all to do again. Then it's Anthony Diel now ahead of Pablo Lopez, so Lopez starting to slip backwards now in the second half of this opening lap. Belinsky around the outside of Browning to try and buy himself a ticket to the inside at Club. He gets there, but it's all a little bit clumsy. Browning out over the curbs, and still these two are wheel to wheel, with only now Belinsky getting himself ahead, but instantly Browning fights back. Luke doesn't really need to be doing this. Third place behind Belinsky would be enough for him to maintain a healthy the championship lead, but this is a real sign of his intent, isn't he? He doesn't want to allow Belinsky the opportunity to get away and maybe challenge for a race victory. And this feisty racing we're seeing from Browning is fabulous to watch, but there's contact going through the loop. Belinsky into the back of Browning, and this time Belinsky is able to make the move stick, albeit, Damien, with a little bit of paint traded.
Yeah, unfortunate there. Just a little bit of contact under the braking. I don't think anything malicious at all. Just a little bit of a front wing to rear wing. Browning coming straight back at him, though. Of course, the drivers all do have a fast repair as Browning sends it to the inside. Belinsky tries to hold firm on the inside line. Browning's going to try and get the switch back. Doesn't quite work on this occasion. But as I was saying, all the cars do have one fast repair this evening. So in the event that something unfortunate like that happens, they can get straight on with it and it won't ruin their race. But Browning coming back into the tow again, Andy.
Yeah, right behind him is Leon Penn in fourth position. Leon Penn, he started fourth. He dropped back initially and he's worked his way back into P4 again now, ahead of Kai Askey. 9 positions gained for Askey. That's more like it. Damien, you said in qualifying, didn't you, that we every week see drivers that don't qualify where they should be, but then they move up the order. And that was what happened there. That was something strange with Roman Belinsky. There was a car off in front of him and he had to take avoiding action. I don't know who that car was. External view might tell us. Oh, well, what on earth was that all about? There was a car going slowly on the racing line. Belinsky had to take avoiding action and was very lucky to get away without significant damage there. We're on board now with Belinsky. Down into Maggots and Beckett's. The road is clear ahead. Julian Rodriguez has disappeared up the road to the tune of about 4 seconds. And someone is limping back to the pit lane right in the way. Matthias Zagazeta, we think that might be. After contact on the opening lap, he was limping back to the pits. And that, unfortunately, Damien, has cost Roman Belinsky.
Yeah, it's dropped him back from Luke Browning, and now he's having to defend from Kai Askey, so he can't focus all of his attention at the moment on closing that gap back up. But the fast repair you saw in action on the replays there, that's exactly what it's there for, so that incidents like that don't ruin the entire race. Luke Browning now, as you say, nearly to the tune of 4 seconds behind Julian Rodriguez, so he needs to get his skates on if he still has designs on winning this race. But of course, he's leading in the Pro class, so he doesn't need to. But the top 3 for the Pro class are pretty much all together, so making hay while the sun shines might not be a bad option for Browning here.
Yeah, absolutely. Leon Penn was another that lost out from all of that because he lost 3 positions. Back to 7th is Leon now after that really good start. There is Julian Rodriguez, who leads the way by 3 3/4 seconds now. Browning is starting to inch back towards him, but given the qualifying pace that Julian showed, I don't think Browning's going to be able to breeze onto the tail of the number 2 car. There in the 4th position is Kai Askey, the 2 Carlin teammates then together. Now, will these 2 work together to try and stop Browning escaping up the road? At the moment, it doesn't really seem that way. They're losing ground to Browning, although it doesn't look to me, I'm sort of looking at the body language of Kai Askey's car, he doesn't look too aggressive, does he? He's not weaving around, he's not diving for the apex, so maybe for the time being, Damien, he is content to follow his teammate.
Yeah, as you've literally just said then, these 2 are teammates, and they will be in the real World Series later this year, so this would certainly set the tone for the season ahead. But I think the 2 Carlin cars working well together at the moment. They're 3rd and 4th overall. They're 2nd and 3rd in their own class. So for the team's championship, this score would do them the world of good. So they're both very mature, respectful drivers. I'm sure they've both got that in the back of their minds. And at the moment, maybe Kai Askey is just thinking better to sit behind Belinsky, stay in touch with Browning, and then see what he can do later in the race.
Yeah, well, as they go through club, of course, he's struggling to stay on the tail of his teammate, really. That dirty air through the high-speed corners means it is quite hard to follow another car, but down the straight, the extra payoff is that the slipstream effect is so strong, it sort of just pulls you all back together again. Browning definitely going after Rodriguez here. He was about half a second quicker, just less than half a second quicker than Rodriguez on the previous lap. So the gap's down to about 3.3 seconds now, and he's pulling away now, nearly 2 seconds clear of this battle for 3rd between Belinsky and Askey. There is an argument here maybe that Askey is quicker than Belinsky, and so it might be in the team's best interest for Askey to be in front, but I'm pretty sure Belinsky is not going to pull aside to let his teammate go through, so they'll stay as they are for now. Wheeling the dirt there for Belinsky going out of Luffield. DL then is in 5th position, Pablo Lopez 6th, Leon Penn 7th, Matthew Rees is 8th. Thomas Pintos has had a good start, hasn't he? He's worked his way up into 9th position, and Ryan Mikulev from right at the back of the grid, 15 places gained into the top 5. Those that have unfortunately gone 1 lap down are Frederick Lubin, Matthias Zagazeta, David Castilla still in the pit lane, and Roldan Rodriguez, I think, is out of the race. So we've lost a few drivers from the front end of the field, but there is such strength in depth in this field that the drivers that move up into the top 10, we're no longer really surprised to see them up there, are we? I mean, Thomas Pintos, Matthew Rees, Leon Penn, they've all shown already they've got top 10 pace. So when they do get the chance to move up the order, it never really feels like they've looked into those results.
Yeah, and another driver that you haven't mentioned there, Mackenzie Cresswell, up into 12th position from the very back, having not set a time in qualifying. So Mackenzie clearly looking to add another podium to the one he took last time out at Snetterton. Two really interesting stories developing here as far as the two championship class leads go. Pablo Lopez, currently third in class, only going to score 15 points. Now, that will give him the lead back over Alex Palau, but only by 5 points. And of course, because he's at the front of the field, that means as a car rejoins there, I think having had a spin, that of course means that for the reverse grid race, he's going to have to start at the back, which then means the chances of scoring more points, unlikely. So to only take a 5-point lead over Alex Palau to Brands GP means the IndyCar driver will very much still be in it. And for Luke Browning, currently on for a maximum haul of points in the Pro class, and for Frederick Lubin to be down towards the bottom, Marin Kramer's not scoring points at the moment either. So for Luke Browning, this is really everything he wanted to happen.
Yes, which is not necessarily the storyline I thought we'd be following about 10 minutes ago when he looked like he was qualifying down in 6th place. But yeah, he, as Luke Browning always seems to be able to do, he's come out of it smelling of roses, hasn't he? And still is in a strong second and continues to inch back towards the race leader. Mackenzie Creswell, we are on board with here in 12th position. Jaco van der Plat in front. The car that they avoided successfully, I'm thankful to say, going through club at the end of the previous lap was Ryan Micallef in the Year 1 racing car. So unfortunately, he still gained 12 positions from where he started, but he lost 3 as a result of a spin. Not quite sure how he spun, but he's had a spin anyway down at Club Corner. Damien mentions there that Alex Palau would have a chance still to take the Pro Sim Championship next week at Brands Hatch. That's because we do expect him to make a return to the final 2 races, especially I'm sure if it does turn out that he's not too far behind in the championship race. I'm sure he'll want to come back in an effort to seal the championship in those final 2 races. So lots of storylines still to play out here. It's still just over half the race to go. We jump on board with Matthew Rees, and he is under all sorts of pressure from Thomas Pintos, one of those big movers, Damien, here. 12 places gained from Thomas, quietly working his way up the order, and he's now onto the tail of the 8th place car.
Yeah, and he's not a driver that we've seen a lot of in the 2 events so far, if memory serves me well. But running well here, Thomas Pintos, and seems to be just sitting around 2/10 away from Matthew Rees at the moment. As you say, through this section of the circuit, very difficult to follow another car. But once he gets out onto the Wellington straight, and then perhaps possibly the Hangar straight, if he hasn't got a move done later around the end of the lap, he'll have another opportunity here. Matthew Rees, it'll be interesting to see as they now go on to that Wellington straight, whether he opts to go defensive or has he got just enough of a margin to keep Thomas at bay for now.
I think he'll have to watch his mirrors at the very least, won't he? Pintos is looking, but I don't think he's close enough. No, not quite going into Brooklands. It's a corner that tightens up on the exit there, so it's very tempting to throw it up the inside because the car in front will often leave the door open, but the lines are always going to converge. A mistake there, though, as they come out of the corner for Rees, and that is all the invitation that Pintos needed. He was quicker off Luffield, got to the inside through Woodcote. He's got the inside line for Copse Corner, and Matthew Rees can move over to the middle of the road all he likes. It's too late. He's lost the track position, and he's now going to try and fight back on the exit of Copse Corner, which he does. Now, you don't really want to go side by side through Maggots and Beckett, so someone is going to have to give. Will it be Rees? Will it be Pintos? It's Pintos. Rees goes back through, and now Pintos has it all to do again. Good racecraft there from both of them, though. The mistake from Rees, Pintos immediately saw that, snatched the advantage, but then really mature driving there, wasn't it, for Rees to see that he was beaten, but then fight back at the first available opportunity so as not to let Pintos get into a rhythm and pull away.
Yeah, excellent stuff there from Rees. A real never say die attitude, and he's managed to keep Pintos far enough behind him down the Hangar straight to have not given him a tow. So looking fairly comfortable in 8th at the moment, but he doesn't really need to engage in battle with Pintos if he doesn't want to. Matthew Rees currently on for a season best result of 4th in class, so if he stays where he is now, he'd pick up 12 points, and unless Mackenzie Cresswell were to catch him, he's not at danger of going any further down the order, if you see what I mean. But I guess that sort of mentality from me is why I'm the one commentating and not racing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure Rees is going to fight everyone that arrives on his tail, regardless of what class they're in. Matthew, one of these really experienced karters, looking to make that next step up into single-seaters in the near future, and this is certainly a good way of learning that craft. Julian Rodriguez seems to have learnt it all, doesn't he? He's putting it all into practice here tonight with a really dominant performance so far. 12 minutes in now to this 20-minute first race of the night. The gap is sort of hovering around 3 seconds. It goes a tenth under, then a tenth over as Browning eases towards him and then loses out again slightly. It's not really a consistent game for Browning, so I don't think Rodriguez is going to be under too much pressure here. Just needs to manage those tyres. They're all running the same setup as well. Remember, it's a fixed setup for all of the drivers, so it's not like certain drivers might come on strong in the second half of the race because that's the way they've set their cars up. You can drive the cars differently to try and save tyres, save brakes, but generally speaking, over a 20-minute race, it should all be fairly equal. Right now, it doesn't look like Browning got an answer for him, does it? There is the gap. That's what 2.9 seconds looks like. Is then a further 2.3 seconds back to Belinsky in third. But Belinsky, Damien, has now shaken off the attentions of his teammate Askey, who arguably is falling back into the clutches now of the Fordzilla pair behind him.
Yeah, that gap's widened out slightly, hasn't it, over the last couple of laps? So Belinsky now a clear third on the road, no longer having to watch his mirrors for Kayaski, as we see two of the Fordzilla cars going into the chicane together. Pablo Lopez had it going ahead of Anthony DL, I think that was there. So that's a change for position, both overall, but also within the class. That means Lopez will move up to second. That means he'll lead the championship by 8 points after this race. So a crucial move there, and I don't think DL made it too difficult for his Fordzilla teammate under the brakes.
No, this is what I said, isn't it? We've seen brilliant teamwork from this squad all season long, and it's Lopez that really needs to score the points now. Okay, it's their other teammate, isn't it, Alex Palau, that Lopez is fighting against, but they need to make sure that their highest scoring driver in the championship that is here tonight also scores as well as possible. So Lopez, I don't think he had too much opposition there from DL, and that's now a 3-point gain. You score 15 points for finishing third in class, 18 for finishing second, but it's then an extra 7 points if you can nab yourself the class win. 25 points for a class win, and you score points within your class, so you can finish wherever you like down the order. If you're leading your class, then you still score the maximum points. Watch now then with interest to see whether Lopez can close in on Kayaski. The gap between the two of them is about 1.3 seconds, and I think it already has started to creep down over this half a lap or so that Lopez has been ahead of DL. So we'll see now whether or not he can catch Askey. It won't get him any more championship points though, of course, so in a way, maybe that's a fight that he doesn't really want to have.
Yeah, and I'm just looking further down the order, Andy. One crucial thing at the moment, if you look, Frederick Lubin down in 22nd position, only 1 lap down on the leader. So as it stands, Frederick will be on pole for the second race later today. Now, as Luke Browning's closest challenger in the championship, and with Luke Browning as it stands second from last on the grid for that one, we could yet see the whole of tonight turn on its head again. Sorry to interrupt, that's just occurred to me.
Oh, that's a very, very good point, actually. Lubin, as long as he's only 1 lap down, will be classified within that reverse grid, as you say. So, we'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on. Keep an eye on this battle as well for what position is this now? This is Georgi Dimitrov and Matthew Crisp, who are debating 15th place. Again, they're both running in different classes, but there's a car in front and they want to overtake it, and so they're going to race for the position regardless. And it's some brilliant racing here, side by side through Copse and through Maggots and Beckett's as well, with eventually Georgi Dimitrov getting the better of Matthew Crisp, moving up into that 15th position. They are about 3 seconds behind Alex Johnson, who has lost ground from where he started. I can't remember where, I must admit, presumably in the early lap, the first lap shuffling through the first few corners, but Alex Johnson in 14th place is catchable if these two would only leave each other alone, but they won't, will they? As soon as one car goes ahead, the other gets the slipstream, and you're almost goaded into having a go, aren't you? You get such a run down that hanger straight in the draft that you almost have no choice but to have a go at overtaking at Stowe.
Yeah, it's that racer's instinct, isn't it? Just coupled with the slipstream, as you mentioned. Looking at the gaps at the front at the moment, Browning has incrementally brought the lead gap down again to 2.8 seconds, but as you touched upon earlier, Andy, not enough really per lap at the moment to be considered a serious threat to Julian Rodriguez before the end of the race. It'd be a really welcome result for Julian, I think. He got second in the first race at Donington Park, and since then, just through bad luck or getting caught up in incidents, one thing or another, it hasn't quite worked out for him. So this will be a welcome result. They're starting to space out slightly at the front, but you'll see that Kayaski has managed to shake the Fordzilla pairing behind him off a little bit, so he might now start to be able to close back in on Roman Belinsky before the end.
Well, you say that, but actually the gap's come down by a couple of tenths on this lap, although it's creeping back up again in the second half. I think Askey is good through Maggots, Beckett's, Stowe, Club, whereas I think in the first half of the lap, that's where Lopez maybe has the edge. We'll see if that's the case again. He is just hovering just over a second behind Askey now, just under a second actually, as they drop into Vale. And once you get within a second of the car in front, you just start to pick up that little bit of a slipstream, and the rest of the gap can sometimes disappear a little bit more quickly. So this ain't over yet for Kyaski. He might have some defending to do as we go into the final 3 minutes of racing now. I agree, though, of the positions towards the pointy end, this is the one that is probably most likely to change. Everyone else finding their own bit of real estate to operate in now. It is Pablo Lopez that's putting in the late charge here, having passed his teammate DL a lap or so ago. He wants now to get that fourth place away from Kyaski, but that is not worth any extra points, and it's just one position further towards the back of the grid that he'll have to start in race 2. So how hard he'll be willing to go for that, we will have to wait and see. Rodriguez then, 2.6 seconds clear of Luke Browning. Roman Belinsky in third position. It's looking good this for Julian Rodriguez to become the third different winner of the season. But for Luke Browning, second place, I think he'll be pretty happy with that, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fairly comfortable run after that early battle with Belinsky for Luke Browning, and he's managed to pull away, clear second place. He's about as far away from Julian Rodriguez as Belinsky is from him. So maximum points in the pro class, and he'll be happy with that for a start to his night's work. But the key thing now is going to be in the reverse grid race, Andy. You know, can he stay out of trouble? Because with Frederick Lubin on pole position, one wrong move for Browning in this reverse grid race, one thing that leads to a non-score for him, and suddenly we could be seeing this championship go all the way down to the wire at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because we're looking at it being something like a top 22 grid reversal. So Browning would start 21st on that basis, and certainly deep in the field. And although he usually has this ability, it seems, to claw his way through those reversed grid races without too much drama, you kind of feel that luck has to run out at some point, and who knows, tonight could be the night, couldn't it? Rodriguez onto the final lap, then he was just under a tenth of a second slower than Browning, but Browning actually sets a personal best lap, so he's clearly looked after his tyres, hasn't he? On board with Pablo Lopez, though, and this gap that was a second a lap ago is now just 4/10, so Lopez definitely catching Askey, and now, Damien, he is close enough to get that slipstream down the straights.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see now where he chooses to try and make the move. If he goes down here, I think Kyaski should be able to hold him off. It's quite easy to defend the inside line here, but the hanger straight, of course, slightly longer, slightly more opportunity to get a tow. And Stowe, of course, is a corner that's quite tight on the entry and then widens out on the exit. So he's not managed to make the move down into there. So now it's just about setting Kyaski up to see if he can have a look into Stowe, as you say, on the last lap. So he's leaving it late here is Lopez. Doesn't need to make this move, but he's a racing driver. Why would he not?
Well, because if he goes for it and it goes wrong, he loses second place in the championship lead in the Pro Sim class. But again, that's why I'm a commentator, not a racing driver. I think he will go for this if he sees a relatively safe anyway, way of doing it. Gets a good run out of Kopp's corner, tucked underneath the rear wing of the number 15 Carlin machine, going down into Maggots and Beckett. He will definitely have a shot going into Stowe corner. Needs to get a good exit from this right-hander. It's then flat out onto the hanger straight. Is he close enough? It's what, 3-4 car lengths between them as they go onto the long back straight. As they head into the final few corners, though, it is Julian Rodriguez heading for his first win in the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. He comes out of Stowe corner, down into the Vale for the final time. He's backed off on the final lap, so Luke Browning is closing in. He's not going to get there, though, before the end of the race. It is a first victory of the season for Fordzilla and a first victory of the season for Julian Rodriguez. Brilliant performance, and Luke Browning comes home in second place. Roman Belinsky will be third. Askey is just going to hang on to fourth position by less than half a second in the end, though, over Pablo Lopez in fourth. It is then Anthony DL in Lopez fifth, DL sixth, get it right. Leon Penn seventh. Matthew Rees with a fighting eighth place gets the better of Thomas Pintos in the end by a couple of seconds. And Dan Blake, a quiet run that from Dan Blake, but the podium finisher from Donington Park at the start of the year is into the top 10 again. The overall winner is the Pro Sim winner, Julian Rodriguez. Browning takes the victory in the Pro class, and it is, of course, Pablo Lopez second in the Pro Sims, who is the big winner within that class. That's the big story, really. Browning one step closer to the overall championship, or the Pro class championship, but Pablo Lopez into the lead now of the Pro Sim class. A brilliant racing there, Damien, though, particularly in the early stages. Exactly what we thought the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit would produce for us. It absolutely delivered. And this championship, although it's looking good for Browning, I'm not giving it to him just yet.
No, and if anybody thought that was the action-packed part of the evening, just wait for what's to come. The reverse grid race always throws up a surprise or two, so it's far from done yet. But yeah, the perfect start to the night for Luke Browning, and also for our race winner, Julian Rodriguez. first overall win, we should say, for Fordzilla. They have, of course, won a few times in the Pro Sim category, but that's a welcome result for him, and that puts him back on form after a tough couple of races.
Yes, it does, and that will certainly boost him now going into that reverse grid race. But as Damien says, this first race is sometimes the calmer of the two races. The reverse grid race should be anything but. So stick around. That's coming up your way in just a few moments' time. We're waiting for the drivers or the top three drivers at least, to make their way up to the podium, and we'll have a chat then with the top three finishers, Julian Rodriguez, Luke Browning, and Roman Belinsky. And I believe we're going to try and have a chat with Kai Askey as well, if we can get him in, because he's got a few stories to tell after that one. So Julian Rodriguez then gets the race victory, and have we now got drivers starting to appear? Yes, we have. We've got our race winner here. So Julian Rodriguez, we can have a chat with now. Julian, congratulations on the race win. A lot of that work was done not even just at the start of the race, but in qualifying. That was a really good late effort in qualifying, and that track position is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you very much. The quality was very, very important. I think I started in pole, and after 2 laps, I see the second was something like 3.5 second, and I know my pace was strong, so I tried to finish, keep the distance with Luke, and was really nice. I have bad luck the other race, but this one I really happy.
How difficult is it to keep your concentration? You've got a big lead early in the race. There's no one behind you. How difficult is it to not make mistakes in that situation?
Well, it's not easy, but I prefer the situation that the other race I start something like 5, or in the last one I start last. So I'm pretty happy to be first and keep the distance with the concentration. No problem.
Well, I wish I could tell you that you'd be starting first in the next race, but you know you're not. You're going to be about 21st or 22nd, we think. So what's the plan for that reverse grid race?
Oh, keep the calm and try to finish, because in the last race in the reverse grid I have a lot of crash. So keep the calm, finish the race. This is my goal for the next race.
Well, best of luck in that second race, and well done on the first race win.
Thank you very much.
Julian Rodriguez then takes the win in the first race here at Silverstone. Second place, though, goes to Luke Browning. So let's have a word with him now, the championship leader, and extends his championship lead in that first race. But Luke, although we can say you've got one hand maybe on the iRacing trophy, it's not all signed, sealed and delivered yet, is it? You've got to survive this reverse grid race.
Is that it? Is if I survive? How many? I don't know what's the deal with it.
Don't go asking me to do maths, Luke. Come on now. Damien is furiously typing away at the spreadsheet, I believe, but we think that a solid result in this race and not such a good result for Fred Lubin will do it. But I mean, if you crash out at the first corner, then obviously that's not ideal, is it?
No, exactly. Yeah, it'd be nice to seal it off here. It was a good race. I actually really enjoyed that. Qualifying didn't quite get to plan. Yeah, I made a mistake in my quali lap, which is yeah, I mean, very rare. It's the first of the 2 seasons, so yeah. But Julian and Pablo did a brilliant job, and Julian's pace, I was gaining on him, but he did really well. He was nice and consistent through the whole race, and yeah, that's what won it him.
Yeah, I reckon I was listening to your answer, I promise, but I was also trying to do the maths. I think you're about 67 points ahead, so 75 left on the table. But of course, Lubin, who finished right at the back in that race, is now on pole for race 2. So I guess that's not good news for you either, really, is it?
No, it's not the end of the world, because we've always got another round, haven't we? But yeah, but like you said, it'd be nice to sign and seal it off, and then I might even join you in the commentary box for the last one. You never know.
I'd love to say it's less stressful up here, but it isn't really, especially when drivers throw mathematics questions at me in interviews. That race, though, it was a good race for you, wasn't it, really? You did everything you had to, but those early stages must have been a bit nervy. The battle you were having in the first sort of handful of laps there with Roman, that was pretty tasty.
Yeah, just having a bit of fun. I think that was our class lead, obviously. So I thought I don't really want to let it go, because or let him go. I wanted to do him straight away, just mainly because the dirty air around here, and as soon as you get in that dirty air, especially through the high speed stuff, it can be a little bit difficult, and then you start to wear your fronts a little bit more, and then there's sort of a knock-on effect. So I just really wanted to get clear and try and catch Julian as quickly as possible.
It could so easily have gone wrong, but it worked out perfectly for you. Another class victory. Luke, best of luck in that second race.
Thank you very much.
Browning then inching towards a second successive, or no, not a second successive championship, of course. He was second in the first iRacing trophy, won the Real World Championship last year, and now he leads going into the anti-penultimate race of Season 2.0. Third position in that race then, Roman Belinsky. Let's have a word with him because, Roman, that was a really feisty performance, especially in those early laps. It looked like you had the better of Luke, and then it looked like you tripped over a back marker.
Yeah, it was good, really good start. I think I gained 3 or 4 places just in the first 2 corners, which was really good. And then me and Luke had a pretty good battle for, I'd say, 2 to 3 laps, and yeah, I just caught a back marker in the wrong place, got a bit of front wing damage at the same time, and yeah, Luke got past them, and it was just kind of bringing the car home, really.
Yeah, which you were able to do, thankfully. You got the better of Kai. He dropped back there towards the end, and it was a pretty static run to the finish. But as I was saying to Luke just now, this second race is all going to get a little bit more hectic, isn't it? You're going to be starting towards the back of the top 20. Is it easier, though, to stay out of trouble at a circuit like this one, a big, wide Formula One style circuit, than it was maybe a week ago at Snetterton?
For sure. I think it's definitely going to be a lot easier, just how it's a lot wider. But I mean, yeah, you never know. Just need to work your way through the people, and hopefully by the end of the race, we'll be in a good position.
Just as easy as that. Well, let's hope it is as easy as that for you, Roman. Congratulations on the podium, and best of luck for race 2.
Thank you very much.
So they are our top 3 drivers then from the first race of the night here from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The win goes to Julian Rodriguez with Luke Browning second and Roman Belinsky third, whilst a 5th place, but second place in the Pro Sim category gives Pablo Lopez the Pro Sim Championship lead with 3 races still to go in the season. Well, don't go anywhere because that second race is just a few minutes away. Let's quickly pull up the results to the first race before we take a quick break, just to confirm that it was Julian Rodriguez that took the win. Julian Moreno, as he shows up on iRacing for some reason. Luke Browning is second, Roman Belinsky third, Kai Askey fourth, and Pablo Lopez, as I said, 5th overall, but second in the Pro Sim class for Fordzilla. A Fordzilla 1, 2, 3 in the Pro Sim category with Anthony DL, third in class on his debut in the championship. Leon Penn 7th, Matthew Rees 8th, Thomas Pintos 9th, and Dan Blake with a solid top 10. Then it's Jaco Van Platt. Mackenzie Creswell was 12th from the back of the grid. Ryan Mikulev likewise moved up to 13th, despite having been higher up than that at one point. Alex Johnson was 14th ahead of Matthew Crisp, then Georgie Dimitrov, Ashley Beard, and Kevin Zemstra in 18th place. Then towards the back of the field, but these are some of the drivers that will be at the front of the grid, remember, for the reversed grid race. 19th overall was James Headley, 20th Nathaniel Hodgkiss, then Joseph Loke 21st, and Frederick Lubin 22nd. Both a lap down, but you are still classified for the reversed grid as long as you're only 1 lap down. So I think Lubin and Loke will be the front row for that race, with Matthias Sagazetta sadly stuck on the outside looking in, 4 laps down. David Castilla likewise was 9 laps down, so too Silas Krag-Vrolik. Roldan Rodriguez was at the back, and we never saw Marion Kramers in that race. He will start at the back for race 2 as well. So that is the first race of the night done and dusted. Do not adjust your sets, though, because the second race is coming up in just a few minutes' time. We're going to take a very, very short break. We'll be back with all of the action from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuits, though, in just a few minutes.
rallied a match.
And you'll see the two filters right ahead of you. Take a selfie, you're ready to race.
We are over. Welcome back to the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy here from the magnificent Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The second race of the night is just a few minutes away, and in the break we've been doing some quick maths to work out exactly what the championship situation is like, because this is the first race, realistically, that Luke Browning, this man, could wrap up the title. We still have 2 races to go at Brands Hatch in a week's time, but Luke, depending on how the race goes, could end up walking out of this race with the race victory. He, remember, managed to take a really good result, another victory within the pro category, in the previous race. Roman Belinsky was second in the class, but Kayaski, with a 3rd place in the pro class, moves up into 2nd in the championship. He is 61 points, by our reckoning, behind Luke Browning, with 75 still available. But after this race, that 75 goes down to 50. So essentially, Askey has to outscore Browning by at least 11 or 12 points in this race to take the battle down to Brands Hatch. We'll get into the ins and outs of that once the race settles down, if the race settles down, and we'll try and work out if Browning's doing enough. In the Pro Sim category, it was a race victory for Julian Rodriguez, his first class win of the year, his 2nd class podium, with Pablo Lopez 2nd, and that 2nd place for Lopez, as we documented, puts him 8 points now clear of the absent Alex Palau. So we'll have to see now how many more points Lopez can score in this race. Whatever he scores in this race, that will determine his advantage over Lopez going to Brands Hatch, but he cannot win the championship tonight. So the Pro Sim category definitely will go down to the wire. The overall Pro Championship, on the other hand, certainly a little less certain. Well, Damien Meaden joins me once again for this second race. Damien, that first race was everything that we like to see from the iRacing Trophy, wasn't it? Great side-by-side racing, really close quarters racing as well. Generally speaking, there was relatively little contact outside of the first lap or so as well. A great advert for the series, and hopefully more of the same on the way now.
Yeah, much better that, and not a safety car in sight, Andy. Did you notice?
I did.
Almost as welcome as that is the lighting for this second race, of course. We deliberately fast forward the clock, if you like, to sunset so that Jacob Ebury, our photography wizard, can get some of the awesome shots you'll see on social media later this evening and into tomorrow. But yeah, a fantastic first race of the evening. And I think it's all set up quite nicely for a great reverse grid race. That's a tongue twister now.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing from Luke Browning in his post-race interview. The first thing he wanted to know was, what were the points? What were the points? Have I done enough? Can I win it in the next race? I mean, he really wants to win this, doesn't he? He was, I think, a little bit disappointed to miss out in Season 1. More than made up for it with his real-world exploits, of course, in 2020. But he would really love to win the iRacing Trophy, wouldn't he? And I think that showed not only in his eagerness to know the point situation after the race, but his determination to get as many points in that race as possible when he didn't really need to be taking those risks.
Yeah, you definitely did get the sense he was a bit disappointed to miss out last year. And I think there was a bit of a strategy going on between him and Chris Lullum all season. You know, they practiced together during the week. They were helping each other on working out, you know, what lines they were going to take, everything, you know, strategy top to bottom. They were across it as a team together for Ford Tech, and you saw them during the races, giving each other tow, swapping positions, just trying to make sure they were getting the best of each result. And then suddenly we got to the last couple of races, and the gloves really started to come off between them, and Luke just got a little bit of bad luck. Chris brought his A game, and ultimately it just slipped through his grasp. But when you spend all season, you know, maybe pulling your punches a little bit for the good of the team, to then miss out at the end, I can imagine that gives him a little bit of extra motivation to win it this time round.
Yeah, and okay, Chris Lullum is not here to defend his title this time round. I'm sure Luke would have liked to have had a second go at beating Chris, but the competition out there is fierce, especially with the introduction now of these pro sim racers. Okay, they're not scoring points alongside the pro drives. They've got their separate championship, but they're still physically sharing the same circuit space as the pros. And not only, Damien, have I been impressed with the pace of some of the top pro sim drivers, but their racecraft is top quality, isn't it? To the point that people like Luke Browning and Roman Belinsky can feel completely comfortable, generally speaking, going wheel to wheel with these people that actually they've probably never met in their lives.
Yeah, I think the two classes have really complemented each other this year. You know, Snetterton maybe not so much. That was a bit of an anomaly, but Donington and here certainly we've seen some incredible racing between the two classes, and you almost forget at times that there are two races going on within one. And you know, we start mentioning to people that he's made up another position, but he doesn't get any more points or he doesn't lose any more points for moving back. It's quite easy, I think, to get lost in it all and forget that these are two separate races and drivers from two different areas, if you like, of the sport. So it's fantastic to see them gel so effectively together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the things that are new for Season 2 of the iRacing Trophy. I really do think it's worked rather well. Drivers, by the way, are circulating in a practice session here, just for those of you new to this series or iRacing in general. This 10-minute practice session is put up just so that the drivers have time to change servers. You have to change from one server to the next between races, and it gives them time to allow for any potential network hiccups or give drivers a time maybe for a quick comfort break between races. But I think most of them are back in the server now. They've not all headed onto the track, but the grid should be ready to be formed within the next 60 minutes or so. And our thanks again to iRacing. This iRacing platform is the perfect one for this sort of competition. There's a reason that it's used by all of the professional drivers pretty much to practice their racing talents, and once again it has produced some great racing over the last few weeks, and we'll do so again in a week's time for the possibly championship decider, depending on how this next 20-minute race goes. Be sure to tune in a week's time for the final two races on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Well, Damien, the grid is going to be formed in the next 15 or 20 seconds, so my final chance to ask you for some predictions ahead of race 2. Who wins the race, and does Luke Browning wrap up the championship in this one?
If he doesn't look at his Twitch chat comments again this time, I think Frederick Lubin has every chance from reverse grid pole, as he did at Donington, to make a good start, get away. You can see him there now. Our cameras are following him as he makes his way around at the end of this practice session. I think he's got every chance, and what a result it would be. And it would really keep this championship going down to the wire at Brands Hatch. So if everything falls right for Frederick Lubin, I think he's a really good bet.
And if Lubin wins, he will not only move back into second in the championship, but actually he will force Luke Browning into needing about a 6th or 7th place finish to wrap it up in this race as well. So that could really put the pressure on the Fortec driver. Here's the reverse grid then. Lubin on pole, Joseph Loke alongside him with Nathaniel Hodgkiss and James Headley on row 2. Kevin Zemstra and Ashley Beard make up the 3rd row ahead of Georgie Dimitrov, Matthew Crisp, Alex Johnson and Ryan Mickle left to round out the top 10. Mackenzie Creswell, one to watch, I reckon. A bit of a dark horse there from row 6 alongside Jaco Van Plaat. And then on the 7th row of the grid, just behind them, we will have Dan Blake, 13th on the grid, with Thomas Pintos in 14th. Matthew Rees and Leon Penner on the 8th row, ahead of Anthony Diel and Pablo Lopez. Quick drivers now towards the back of the top 20. Kayaski's next, ahead of Roman Belinsky. Browning is 21st, with race 1 winner Julian Rodriguez 22nd. Then it's Matthias Zagazeta next, with Silas Krag-Vrolik towards the back, just ahead of David Castilla. Red lights then are about to go on. This is it, the second and final race of the night from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Frederick Lubin and Joseph Loke make up the front row. Loke, remember, was a front runner at Donington in the reverse grid race as well. What can he do from the front row tonight? Away they go. The lights are out. The rush towards the first corner begins. It's Lubin that gets the advantage. Loke immediately slots into second position, and Nathaniel Hodgkiss with a good start stays in third position as well, ahead of Kevin Zemstra, who is up one place. James Headley's had a bad start, unfortunately, losing 2 or 3 spots already. Cars off in the background. Who was that off the road? I think Julian Rodriguez was one of them, and there's more contact going through Village as well. It's all kicking off again. Ashley Beard's off the road. Mikleth as well. Roman Belinsky has picked his way through it quite nicely, but that is Luke Browning. Luke Browning was involved in contact through the first couple of corners. He's rejoined, he's made use of his fast repair, but he is a long way down the order, down in 19th place overall, although other drivers are throwing themselves off the road in front of him. Well, he was 3 wide into the first corner, and contact with, now I didn't quite catch the
Mackenzie
number.
Cresswell, I think there, Andy.
Right, okay, so Creswell was having a moment of his own, I think, wasn't he? And Browning just had nowhere to go. Damien, this is exactly what we said could happen to Luke from this reverse grid race.
Yeah, unfortunate that. 6 of one, half a dozen rather of the other. Going through the first corner, he's just got caught up in an unfortunate incident. I mean, he's still up 2 positions on this lap into 19th already, so it's not been as bad as it could have been for Luke Browning. As you say, took full advantage of his fast repair. He's rejoined the race. We know he's quick. He's got about 14.5 seconds to make up to the leader, so it's game on for Luke Browning now to see what he can do. But Frederick Lubin pulled away just as we predicted from the start, and he's making good on it.
Yeah, needs to try and break the toe now, doesn't he? Which he's starting to do from Joseph Loke. It's a 5-car breakaway here. Lubin leading, Loke second, Hodgkiss third, with Georgi Dimitrov. Well, he was fourth, but Kevin Zemstra just dived up the inside, and then there's contact further back, and Zemstra's off the road. I was about to say Zemstra had the Pro Sim class lead. He doesn't anymore. Oh, and heavily into the barriers. That was Dan Blake, I think, wasn't it? Who had to try and take avoiding action. Also in trouble is Thomas Pintos, the 77, and down into the pit lane. I'm afraid we'll have to go Zemstra. This is what happened. Loses a place to Dimitrov, who gets the curb. Oh, Dimitrov lost it, and unfortunately, Zemstra had absolutely nowhere to go. That was unfortunate there. Just one car losing control on cold tyres, and then as that happened, others scattered to try and avoid, but that was the Pro Sim leader off the road on the first lap.
Luke Browning's in the pit lane, Andy. According to that graphic on the left-hand side, Luke Browning has come into the pit lane. That's big news for the championship.
Yes, and I can't tell you why, because you'd think he'd use his fast repair. Maybe he didn't want to use it in case he needs it later, possibly, don't know. He is coming out of the pit lane now. Anyway, so Luke Browning, well, he was inside the top 10 in class. He might still be, actually. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he's still 8th in class, so he's still scoring some points. But his chances now of scoring enough to take the championship victory tonight perhaps being reduced, especially with this man leading the race. Frederick Lubin, 8.5 tenths of a second now, clear of Joseph Loke in second, who's had a much cleaner start to this race, Damien, than he had in the reverse grid race at Donington. Loke was a front runner for all of a lap or so, wasn't he, at Donington, and maybe struggled a bit to hang on cold tyres. This time, though, he's showing that he's learned his lesson and he's staying in second place.
Yeah, Donington, unfortunate for Joseph Loke, an incident down at the old hairpin, if I remember right. Just affected him on that occasion, but running a comfortable second at the moment, it has to be said. He's keeping Frederick Lubin honest at the front, and he's keeping Nathaniel Hodgkiss behind at arm's length. So far, so good for him. You mentioned the championship battle just then. I've just done a quick maths, and I think Luke Browning... I've done a quick maths, God. I'm inventing a term for myself as well. I think Luke Browning will lead by 46 points as it stands. So as it stands, this will go down to Brands Hatch just.
And that will be over Lubin's second, correct?
Yes, I believe so. Yep, I think that's what we're looking at the moment.
Righto, with 50 points still on the table then, so Lubin could still beat him at Brands Hatch in a week's time. We'll check back in with Damien Vorderman towards the end of the race, see if he's got any further points updates for us. For now, let's focus on the racing then. This is the fight for 4th place in the Pro Sim category. I'm making up my own words now as well. Jaco van der Plat with David Castilla right in front of him, nose to tail as they go through Village and the Loop, and then out onto the Wellington straight, and out wide goes Van der Plat, and that will lose him momentum off the corner. Georgi Dimitrov was recovering there as well. Look, he's the black car that spun and tangled with Kevin Zemstra, who was at the time leading the Pro Sim category. That honour now lands in the lap of Alex Jonsson, as we jump now on board with DL then heading Anthony DL down into Brooklands corner, up the inside of Thomas Pintos. DL, I think, was also delayed in the first lap contact, but he's managed to pick his way through now and is still scoring quite highly in the Pro Sim category. That was for 6th place in the class, actually, and 12th place overall.
So as it stands, Frederick Lubin leading the way. Nathaniel Hodgkiss now up into 2nd place, Annie. So what's happened to Joseph Loke? He's dropped back to 8th on the timing screens.
What's happened to him is we said how well he was doing, and the curse of the commentator has struck again. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Joseph Loke of Ford Fiesta Junior fame, if you like, has unfortunately slipped off the road, it would seem. And this is why, going through the loop, gets sideways, gets on the dirt, and that was it. Round she went onto the grass, and Joseph Loke, the JHR Developments driver, an unforced error there, and you'd expect him to have got his tyre temperature up by this point. So that was, I think, just a little bit of over-eagerness to try and get after Frederick Lubin. Loke, of course, is also running in the pro category, so Lubin and Hodgkiss, indeed, the 2 cars around him, would have been worth points if he could beat either or both of them. The order now, then, Lubin leads the way, Hodgkiss second, Belinsky in third, though, with the fastest lap. Now, Roman Belinsky, of course, is kind of out of this championship battle now. Well, I say that, and actually he's not really, is he? He may have missed the 2 races at Snetterton, but he scored so well from Donington Park that he could still potentially be a championship challenger, and he's just taken 2nd place away from Nathaniel Hodgkiss. Belinsky ain't out of this yet, is he?
No, that's still not enough to move him up past Frederick Lubin into second outright, but it does move him to within striking range of Frederick. So, as it stands, I think Roman would be exactly 50 points behind Luke Browning. So, he'd have to hope to win both races at Brands Hatch and that Luke not to score. So, it's an outside shot, but you have to say he's putting himself in the best position that if something does happen to Frederick in this race, he'll be in prime position to take the lead and maybe go on and register that win that I would say is overdue, to be honest. If you consider the performances at Donington, and how well he was doing in that first race, that early battle with Luke Browning, it wouldn't be unjust for Roman Belinsky to have a win to his name by now. But Frederick Lubin, you have to say, by the same token, doing a great job at the front, 2.2 seconds in the lead, and just managing that gap at the moment, it seems.
Given the pace Belinsky's had tonight, though, I think he can catch Lubin. I mean, Belinsky's fastest lap is nearly a full second quicker than Lubin has managed, and he's only 2 seconds back, and the gap is already coming down. Look, it's under 2 seconds now, so it came down by a tenth or so, just in the time it took me to finish that sentence. So Belinsky might yet win the race, and that would be a 7-point swing if he could do it. This is the battle for the lead of the Pro Sim class, and that is important because that's Pablo Lopez going ahead of Alex Johnson. That is the class lead for the championship leader. If he can defend it into Vale, which he does, that means 25 points could be on the way now to Lopez, and that would give him, what's that, a 33-point cushion going into Brands Hatch, which would mean that Palau would have to beat him in the first race to stop Lopez taking the championship. Lopez, Damien, was the other one, wasn't he, that we said had to stay out of trouble in the early stages. And unlike Browning in the pro class, he did stay out of trouble, and he's reaping the rewards now, moving into the class lead.
Yeah, it's a bit of a role reversal for those two. Luke Browning, as we see David Castilla attacking Joseph Loke rather there into turn 3. Yeah, it's a bit of a role reversal because we've seen so far this season that Luke Browning's pretty good at picking his way through the chaos. And Pablo Lopez once or twice just happened to have gotten caught up in it. But he's doing really well at the moment, 33 points ahead as it stands, and up 14 positions in this race so far to get into P4 and P1 in the Pro Sim class. What will be interesting now is whether he settles for what he's got and looks to just fend off Alex Johnson, or whether he sets off after Nathaniel Hodgkiss and the overall top 3.
Yeah, well, Hodgkiss is not that far ahead, is he? Just under 2 seconds. So in getting away from Johnson, he might almost accidentally find himself catching Hodgkiss before the end. As well, as much as Lopez is gaining ground, 14 places gained, he's not the biggest mover in the race. Roman Belinsky is, with 18 places gained. The next biggest mover is this man, David Castilla, the Team TUX Gaming driver, who is trying to gain his 17th place here at the expense of Joseph Loke. And he's been trying it for almost a full lap now since we joined these two. Very hard to follow another car nose to tail through Maggots and Beckett's though, so he just drops back by a car length or so, rattles over the curb on the exit, but carries good speed down the straight nonetheless. So Castilla will have a chance here to take 8th place away. It's not for a position within the class, but he can see other Pro Sim drivers up the road that he wants to try and go after, and to do that he needs to dispatch of Loke as quickly as he can, which he does. Goes through on the inside into Stowe Corner. That wide line on the exit of the turn then gives him the inside for Vale, and he, well, won't retain it because Loke goes right round the outside and snatches it straight back and then loses it again. Joseph Loke, for the second time, is a bit too heavy with the right foot, loses control out of the first part of the club. And that was just another one of those rookie mistakes, wasn't it, really? He's never driven a car with this much power, certainly not in the real world anyway. And Joseph Loke there on the tight line, he was trying to keep the steering lock as tight as possible, but also get to the throttle as early as possible. And these Formula 3 Dalaras only have so much grip to give.
Yeah, I think give him credit, though. He managed to get back from that very quickly, recovered, got the car pointing the right way again, and actually, relative to the people he was battling against, he's not too far off. So if he can get his head down now and make some inroads, I think he could still catch them by the end of the race. But yeah, just an unfortunate moment, as you say.
Yes, he's lost a few positions there, down to 11th. It could well have been 12th, but Thomas Pintos has been off the road on the previous lap too, losing about 9 or 10 seconds. So Pintos has had a bit of an up and down race, hasn't he? Right, speaking of up and down, well, the lead gap was going up. Now it's coming down to 1.4 seconds between Lubin and Belinsky. So Belinsky does seem to have something for Lubin, and this could be critical. These are Luke Browning's 2 closest rivals in the championship. Whichever one wins this race, realistically, is going to be the driver taking the fight to Luke in the championship at Brands Hatch, as long as Luke doesn't gain too many more places. How's Luke doing? He's still 2, 4, 6, 7th now in class, so actually that does make a little bit of a difference to the points, doesn't it? Damien, I'm sure, is already firing up the abacus to work out what that means.
Oh, you know me well.
7th place means it means an extra couple of places now for Luke, and well, in the end might not make much difference which of these two wins the race. But for the time being, Damien, they really both have to go for it, don't they? Lubin and Belinsky, they know that Browning is further down the order than he should be, and they know that these two, either one of them could still beat him for the championship. So this, I think, is going to be a really, really big battle moving into the final third of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And crucially, what I was just trying to work out there was that if Belinsky does pass Lubin and take the race lead, that isn't enough to give Luke Browning the championship where he is. It would put Belinsky 42 points off the Fortec driver. So, crucially, this race really, as you say, is about who wants to take the fight to him at Brands Hatch. Whoever wins the race, the scenario will be the same for Browning unless he can make up a few more positions.
Which he's not that likely to do, because Browning at the moment is down in 14th place. His nearest pro rival is Matthias Zagazeta in 12th, but he's 8 seconds ahead of him. So he could get up there. And remember, if I said if he gets in the top 6 or 7, that might be enough for the championship. Well, it would have to be top 6 now, wouldn't it? Maybe even top 5. And Browning is not the fastest man on the track, is he? Because Julian Rodriguez, who's only 3 seconds behind him, has just snapped the fastest lap, a 1 minute 50.3. So drivers deep in the field are setting some pretty quick lap times now, having repaired their cars after early shunts. Right, on board with Frederick Lubin, then the Arden Motorsport driver. A rear-facing view through Maggots and Beckett's. If you suffer from motion sickness, look away now, because this is a really terrifying view, quite frankly. Especially because looming ever larger behind us is Roman Belinsky. The gap came down by another 10th or so just through that sequence of corners, and now Damien Belinsky is just sniffing that slipstream. I think this next 7 or 8 tenths of a second will disappear now over the course of the next lap or so, and then we really will have a battle royale for the victory.
Yeah, it definitely does seem like the gap is going to keep coming down, doesn't it? I can imagine the Belinsky family at home at the moment watching through their hands as Roman edges ever closer to Frederick for the race lead. Of course, these two were teammates in real life at Arden last season as well, so they get along very well. They're on iRacing together very often, so good friends off the track, but fierce competitors nonetheless on it.
Another 6 tenths there taken by Belinsky. Look, a 151.2 for Lubin, a 50.6 for Belinsky, a 50.4 for Pablo Lopez, actually. But Lopez is 3.4 seconds back. I'm not sure even he can get to these two, unless, of course, they really start dicing with each other and holding each other up. If they start running wheel to wheel and holding each other up through some of the high-speed corners in particular, 3 or 4 seconds can disappear pretty rapidly. But Lopez and Johnson are not pro-class drivers, so they can almost let those two go, and it wouldn't make a difference for the points. Right, here we go then. As I, for once, correctly predicted, the gap has disappeared over the course of the next half a lap or so. Roman Belinsky has caught Frederick Lubin. Now he needs to get past him. Damien, we know where the obvious overtaking opportunities are. The thing is, so does Frederick Lubin. He's not going to make this easy. He will defend as soon as he thinks Belinsky has a run. Yeah,
and we've seen tonight, actually, some drivers not getting the toe down the hanger straight as much as we might have thought they would. There have definitely been half a dozen moves or so where I've thought, that's it, he's going to get it done. And they've not quite been close enough on the brakes, so not quite sure where the sweet spot is here, but he's only 4 tenths back now, so you would think if he can get a good exit here and get a good run out onto the straight, he's going to have an opportunity on the brakes into Stowe.
Well, we're riding on board with Belinsky. We've got a bird's eye view of this now. Let's see if he can close. I don't think he's close enough this time, is he? He will get towards the gearbox of Lubin going into the braking zone, but yeah, 2 or 3 car lengths too far back. Look at the way he closes under braking, a bit too deep on the brakes though. Lubin hooked up the apex a bit sweeter than Belinsky did there, and so the Arden driver gets away again from the Carlin Motorsport driver. Down the hill into Vale. They're both a bit twitchy under brakes, but it's a better line for Belinsky. Tries to get up the inside into the second part of Club. Lubin can't close the door quickly enough. Almost contact as they come across the start-finish line, side by side. But Lubin, by the skin of his teeth, hangs on. Up the inside into Abbey goes Roman Belinsky. You can't pass there. Lubin's on the grass. They're still wheel-to-wheel. Brilliant racing. And still Lubin manages to stay in front. Belinsky throwing everything at him, but he just can't quite get himself on the inside line when it counts. Side by side through the loop, Lubin sideways, Belinsky through. That was the mistake that Belinsky made, but my word, did he have to fight for that.
Yeah, fantastic racing from those two guys. I was quite literally on the edge of my seat there. Amazing side-by-side action, just managed to get across to defended Lubin, but Belinsky waited, and you just see it there, just got a little bit crossed up. And he took his opportunity when it presented itself. Can Lubin come back at him now, or is Belinsky going to charge ahead and take his first win of the virtual season, shall we say?
Well, Belinsky has the pace to get away, doesn't he? What we don't know is whether or not Lubin staying in the slipstream will be enough for him to stay with him. At the moment, it seems not. The gap is up to 0.7 of a second within the next sector or so, and Lubin looked wild out of Kopp's corner, just couldn't quite stay with him. The other danger here for Lubin is that Lopez is getting ever closer now, only 1.4 seconds back. Remember, that gap was over 3 seconds a couple of laps ago, so Pablo Lopez could still be on for second place overall. He's already on course for the class win, which we documented earlier on was really the most important thing for him. But there he is, look, in third place. Top three cars getting closer together. Then Johnson is fourth, Hodgkiss fifth, Askey is sixth. Now, Kai Askey is the other one we need to watch here. Can he gain some more points? Well, yes, he can, because he's only a second behind Nathaniel Hodgkiss. That would be third place in the class. Again, I'm not quick enough on the maths to work out what this means, but Askey in fourth is not going to be as good for Askey as Askey in third. So if Askey can get Hodgkiss, get those 15 points for finishing in third position, might that be enough to keep him in championship contention? This is also significant. Luke Browning has caught Matthias Zagazzetta. This is for sixth position in the class, and it looks as though he's going to go through. Luke Browning up the inside towards Stowe corner. Zagazzetta pulls onto the grass. Browning right off the road. Two wheels in the dirt. He tries to go through. Zagazzetta can't fight it, and Luke Browning is able to go ahead. Now, can Zagazzetta fight back into Vale? Surely he's going to have a go. Dives to the inside line. Browning sees it coming. Oh, there was almost contact as they turned into the corner, but Browning sails it on in there, takes sixth place in the class. That means that he's now on course for a couple more championship points. You get 2 more points for finishing sixth than you do for finishing seventh. 8 points for Browning now. What does that mean for the championship?
Think off the top of my head, Andy, that will be a straight 50-point margin for Luke Browning. So it won't be enough to win it on the night now. Or actually, it might be. I'll have to have a look at Countback. I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, because Browning's got those 3 handy wins, hasn't he? And after this race, there will only be 2 more left. So this would be Belinsky's first win. In theory, if Belinsky won both the races at Brands Hatch, that would equal the number of wins to Browning. And now my head's starting to hurt, so I'm going to focus on the race because there's 2 minutes to go. And quite frankly, that mathematical calculation is beyond me. Askey out of the Maggots and Beckett sequence, then down the back straight. Pablo Lopez weaving around all over the place because he has got past Fred Lubin. That's what's happened. So Lopez has got himself into second place ahead of Lubin, and looks now like he's got the pace to get away. So Fred Lubin, was it a mistake? Looks like it was. Yeah, again, just a bit too aggressive with the right foot there. Slides onto the grass. And I tell you what, Lopez did well to avoid running into the back of him there. Second place, though, now belongs to the Fordzilla driver. Can Lubin fight back? We're going on to the final lap of the race now. And Pablo Lopez into P2. Can he stay there?
It'll be interesting to see. I'm sorry, Andy, I was keeping an eye on the maths, not the racetrack for a moment there. I think Luke Browning, with that move past Matthias Zagazzetta, has done enough. He'll have 4 race wins to his name. Of course, he won the opening race earlier tonight in class. And I think, although he'll only be 50 points ahead of Roman Belinsky, who's on course for his first win of the season, I don't think it'll be enough for anybody to catch him now. I think Luke Browning has done it.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I was forgetting Browning won earlier on, so that is 4 wins, which is now, with only 3 races to go, insurmountable. So, yeah, Luke Browning then provisionally might have done enough to secure the British Formula 4 iRacing trophy. But, of course, there's always the potential for these things to change after the fact. For Roman Belinsky, though, it doesn't really matter in a way because he's still put in a stellar performance here. The Carlin driver who was officially announced at Carlin a couple of weeks ago for the 2021 British Formula 4 Championship. He could still wrap up second place in the iRacing trophy next time at Brands Hatch. That, along with the Pro Sim category, perhaps are going to be the biggest stories into those final 2 races. But Roman Belinsky has put in a stellar performance in this second race of the night. 19 places gained. He started 20th on the grid in a race in which many other front runners or expected front runners didn't even make it through the first couple of corners without pointing the wrong way. Belinsky picked his way through it nicely in Luke Browning style fashion, really, and he's now only 2 corners away from taking his first victory in the British Formula 4 iRacing trophy. He weaves his way through club into the final corner. Roman Belinsky will win the second race of the night here at Silverstone in brilliant fighting fashion. Pablo Lopez takes a really important second place, but more importantly, another win in the Pro Sim category. And Frederick Lubin, well, he fought hard to try and retain the race victory, just didn't have the ultimate pace in the end. Third place, the best the Arden driver can finish with. Fourth place is Alex Johnson. Leon Penn is fifth. They're second and third, respectively, in the Pro Sim category, ahead of Anthony DL, Jaco van der Plat, Nathaniel Hodgkiss, Kai Askey, David Castilla and Joseph Loke. But outside of the top 10, in 12th place, Luke Browning is approaching the start-finish line, and he is about to, we think, provisionally wrap up the British Formula 4 iRacing trophy. It wasn't an ideal race, but he gets to the end in a strong 6th placing class, and that might just be enough. Across the line goes the Fortec Motorsport driver, having come so close in Season 1. Luke Browning is provisionally your Season 2 British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy champion with 2 races still to go. The celebratory donuts are rather rudely interrupted by some other drivers keen to try and, let's say, congratulate him on the race or on the championship victory, but that's not going to stop him. His car's falling apart, but he's still celebrating the championship win. Brilliant driving that from Luke, and we'll do our best to try and have a word with him after the race as well. Well, Damien, he's done it. It's Luke Browning's championship provisionally. A well-deserved one as well. I mean, it's hard to make an argument, really, for Luke Browning not winning this championship. Dominated the first 2 events. Little bit of a blip, perhaps, it seems, tonight. Missing out on pole position. That accident at the start of race 2. But he's been a class act all season and is no doubt a deserving champion.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can begrudge Luke Browning winning this championship. 4 wins and a second place going into this one. It's actually the first race he's not finished inside the top 2. And when you consider that 2 of those races, he'd have had to start right at the back for reverse grids, you can see why it's thoroughly deserved. But I just want to give a big shout out to some other drivers who've done really well tonight. Obviously, Belinsky with his first win, finished second in race 1. So that's a fantastic showing from him, despite taking a round out, so he's managed to pull himself up into second, and he's done a third fewer races than the other drivers. Frederick Lubin, another second place. That was well deserved. It was a great battle between him and Roman, and he takes second in class. And some really good points for the likes of Kai Askey and Nathaniel Hodgkiss and Mackenzie Cresswell. Had a really great first race. Unlucky with that accident at the start of the second one, but I think a lot of drivers have got a lot of reason to be happy with themselves tonight. None more so perhaps than Pablo Lopez as well. Looking at the Pro Sim class, that's a really healthy lead now. 33 points, did you say earlier, to take to Brands GP? He'll be feeling good about that.
If you trust my maths, it's 33. Yes, it's somewhere in that region. Anyway, certainly more than he had coming into the night, because, of course, Alex Palau not being here, he was still leading the championship when we came to Silverstone. Not the case as we head to Brands Hatch. You saw the official results there, or the provisional results, I should say, there. We'll be able to have a chat, I believe, now with our... there are the results again. Thank you very much, Graham. So it's Roman Belinsky that takes the win, Lopez in second, and Fred Lubin in third place. Belinsky and Lopez, the 2 class winners, of course. Alex Johnson was fourth, Leon Penn fifth, ahead of Anthony DL. A really good debut, that, for the former Project Cars world champion and the French Forza Motorsport champion as well. He's an experienced sim racer, DL, and made a great debut in the championship. Jaco van Plat was seventh, ahead of Nathaniel Hodgkiss. Kai Askey in ninth, and Joseph Loke, after 2 spins, still ends up in the top 10. Luke Browning was 11th, that's 6th in class, and provisionally is enough for the Pro Championship, ahead of a host of Pro Sim drivers, Julian Moreno, Matthew Crisp, Dan Blake, David Castilla and Kevin Zemstra after that spin. Matthew Rees was 17th. Thomas Pintos comes home in 18th position. And then towards the back end of the top 20, we have in 19th position Thomas Pintos, 19th for Pintos, 20th for Headley, Then Georgi Dimitrov, Ryan Mikalev, Ashley Beard, Silas Craig-Vrolik and Mackenzie Creswell were all in strife early on. Right then, I think we've got our top 3 drivers here. We've certainly got Roman Belinsky, so let's drag him in then for a quick chat, because that's a brilliant race victory for Roman, his first in the iRacing trophy. It's not quite enough, we don't think, to keep you in championship contention, but that was nonetheless a brilliant drive. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was definitely an eventful race, and I was really nervous when I got a good start and knew I was in quite a good position and starting to catch the leaders. I was getting really nervous. But yeah, it was a good race. I mean, championship-wise, it's always going to be tough because I missed Snetterton. But yeah, thank you very much to Carlin Motorsport and everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't, as we said, it's not enough for the championship, but it does move you ahead now of Lubin for second in the points. Was that at all on your mind when you were catching him, or were you just thinking about the race win?
I didn't really know that. I was mainly just focusing on going forward and doing the best I could do, and hopefully it all paid off in the points wise. But yeah, I thought it was a good race.
Talk us through the battle you had with Frederick then, because you were side by side for a good amount of time. It's hard sometimes, isn't it, to make the move stick because it's such a wide track. There are lots of lefts and rights, so it can sometimes be half a lap of side by side racing before you actually seal the deal.
Yeah, it's really hard because Frederick's also a very good racer, and I race him nearly every day on the sim, so we know what each other's kind of moves are, where we place the car, kind of thing. So it's really tough to get past him. But yeah, in the end, I think he just locked his rear tyres and gave me a gap, and I went for it.
Went for it, you did. You pulled clear as well, took the race win. Congratulations on that, and we look forward to seeing this battle between the two of you for second place at Brands Hatch.
Thank you very much.
Roman Belinsky then finally gets that first win in the iRacing trophy. Second place in the end did not go to Fred Lubin, of course. It was Pablo Lopez that managed to come through to take another overall podium and another class victory in the Pro Sim class. And Pablo, I think, is able to join us now so that we can discuss that second consecutive class victory with him. We'll just, there he is. Pablo, congratulations, another class win. That one, though, I'm sure is all the sweeter because you had to come from a long way back.
Yeah, it was nice race. I was lucky to avoid every crash on the first lap. This reverse grid at crazy, man, is amazing how hard it is not to crash.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it, really? Because if you crash on the first lap, that's kind of your race over, really, isn't it? But from a championship perspective, you really had to survive and score good points. Did you ever think that a class win was going to be on the cards then?
Well, you have a lot of random things on the second races, so always a possibility. I'm not really sure, but I always push for that.
Yeah, well, you pushed hard and you've reaped the rewards as well, because you now go to Brands Hatch, we think, about 33 points ahead of Alex in the championship lead. How confident are you that you can wrap up the title?
Brands Hatch is a nice track, but I think if Alex can race, he can be the one to beat because he is really fast, and we raced months ago in that track and he beat me. So I will try to be on the edge there for clinching the championship.
Interesting stuff. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how that one settles itself out. But for now, congratulations on the race win.
Thank you.
Pablo Lopez then second place, but wins the Pro Sim category. Third place in the race went to Frederick Lubin, and I think we can have a chat with him as well now. Frederick really fought hard for the victory in that race. In the end, coming just short in third place, Frederick. But we really enjoyed that battle you had with Roman Belinsky midway through that race. I imagine you didn't enjoy it quite so much because he got past you, but some great side-by-side action between the two of you.
Yeah, it was really awesome. It was good, clean racing. Obviously, I know Roman quite well, so I knew I could push it towards the limits. But yeah, I locked rears, which was a bit of a shame. It's actually quite scary because I thought I was going to take Roman out. But yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, some good points for you as well. Obviously, winning the race might have been enough to keep you in championship contention. Was that on your mind at all?
No, not really. I mean, it's great to do this championship. You know, there's a lot of good drivers in it. It's good fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm basically just here to race some good drivers and learn something. Yeah.
And race against drivers that maybe you haven't had much chance to race against before. I mean, I don't know how much you've come across people like Pablo, for example, on iRacing. He's pretty handy, isn't he?
Yeah, extremely. And it's great having people like Alex Palau in here, you know, IndyCar. He's got a lot of experience. Yeah, I mean, I've raced a few sim races on iRacing in other events, but, you know, nothing to this extent or level as such. So, yeah.
Well, we really enjoyed watching the battling out there that you were involved in. You'll be involved in more at Brands Hatch, I'm sure. You and Roman are only a few points apart now in the fight for second place in the championship. So you might be good friends, but I'm sure you want to beat him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love to beat Rom. I think it's a good friendly competition.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how it resolves itself at Brands Hatch. Well done on the podium, and thank you for entertaining us this evening.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Frederick Lubin, excuse me, then with third place in the race, second in the pro category. Well, we should probably talk to our champion, shouldn't we then? Luke Browning has been waiting patiently for us to talk to our top three from the race, but Luke manages to come home with sixth place in the class. And by the skin of your teeth, Luke, you've managed to wrap it up. But I tell you what, through that first lap, you probably didn't think you would, did you?
No, yeah. I mean, chaos. Unfortunately, that's just one I can't avoid. I really try my best and been clean throughout the whole season. But yeah, I mean, one of them reverse grid races are going to always catch me out. So yeah, luckily it was. Well, it worked out like that, didn't it? But yeah, amazing feeling to do the double, clinch both the esports and the real life. It feels pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been a good 12 months for you, hasn't it, really, Luke? I'll tell you what, you've got a good clip there for your show reel too, because the move you made to seal the championship was the move on Matthias down the back straight, 2 wheels on the grass. I mean, it could so easily have gone wrong again, couldn't it?
Yeah, he didn't give much room. But yeah, I mean, racing's racing. We all had a bit of fun, and just a big thank you to everyone, really. Organisation, everything has been brilliant, and I'm looking forward to watching next season and seeing what people do.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all looking forward to seeing what you get up to in 2021 as well. I mean, 2020 was such a good season for you. I'm sure you've got aspirations of moving on up the ladder now in the future. What are your plans for 2021? What can you share with us?
To be perfectly honest, I'm not 100% sure right now. I know that's a horrible answer and you didn't want to hear it, but truly, we just don't know at the moment. It's all about finding budget, and in these times at the moment, it's pretty difficult. But we've got plans with continuity with Fortec, and I'm so thankful for them guys for last season, all the faith they put into me. So hopefully we can go and do the same again.
Well, it would be a travesty if you weren't able to get back out there on track again this year, Luke. Hopefully we will see you, and we'll definitely see you next week, either on track or you're more than welcome in the comms box if you fancy a bit of a relaxing evening, relatively relaxing evening anyway. Certainly more relaxing, I think, than that second race was for you.
For sure. Yeah, thank you very much, once again, and big thank you to everyone watching at home, and yeah, I'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Luke, and congratulations, the provisional Season 2 champion of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy. Well, Damien, just want to bring you in here just to get some of your closing remarks, really, because the season is not over yet. Luke may have provisionally wrapped up the title. We've still got these 2 races at Brands Hatch to look forward to, but I said at the end of that previous race he was a worthy champion, but he's a good champion, isn't he, as well? He knows what to say. He's got the right attitude about him, I think. And Luke really is one of those drivers that you kind of find yourself rooting for, isn't he?
Yeah, well, you've just taken both things I was about to say. I was about to say that he's got a really good attitude and he presents himself well. No, you're right. He's an incredibly affable guy. And fingers crossed he does manage to get a seat further up the ladder. Because like you said, it would be a travesty if he couldn't for next season. So he's got the right people around him in Fortec and his family and the partners he's got. So I'm sure they'll be able to work together and make something happen. But focusing on esports, like we've said earlier, a very worthy champion, 4 race wins, an extra podium, and obviously a top 6 from, the absolute depth of the field in that last race there. So I dropped him a message at the checkered flag. He was messaging me, have I done it? Is it done? And I said, by the absolute finest margin possible. I think on countback, no less, he's done it. So that's definitely one way to win a championship, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly memorable. That move he made against Matthias Lagazetta to snatch those extra points was certainly one that he'll look back on fondly, I'm sure. So the championship then provisionally is wrapped up, Damien. Why should our viewers tune in a week's time to Brands Hatch? Because we've got these 2 other races. I mean, why bother?
Well, you say the championship's wrapped up. We've only wrapped up one of the 2 classes that are racing. So the pro battle might be all but over for the championship, but I think if you're looking to the real world drivers, I think the battle for second is really shaping up nicely. I think off the top of my head, we've got Belinsky, Lubin, Kai Askey, and possibly just mathematically Marin Kramers and Mackenzie Cresswell as well. So I think there's going to be a fantastic battle to see who gets to be runner-up to Luke Browning in the pro class. But in the pro sim class, assuming that he's free and back from Laguna Seca and finished testing, Alex Palau in the pro sim class has got a heck of a task on his hands to overhaul his Fordzilla teammate Pablo Lopez and try and wrestle the lead of that class back away. So Luke Browning might have won the Pro Class now, but there's a whole host of reasons to be with us next week. If for nothing else than the fact it's Brands GP and it's amazing racing.
Yes, it is one of my personal favourite circuits, I have to say, Brands Hatch, and it's the right place to have the final rounds of a championship. Well, that I think is all we have time for tonight from Silverstone. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us over the course of the night. I hope that you will find some time on your Monday evening in a week's time, same place, to join us for the final 2 rounds of the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy, with still several scores to settle up and down the order. My thanks to Damien Meaden for joining me on co-coms tonight, Graham Sessford for covering the production behind the scenes, doing as splendid a job as ever. We'll see you all again in a week's time, but for now, it is Luke Browning who goes to bed the happiest tonight. Provisionally, he is the British Formula 4 iRacing Trophy champion. Join us again next time at Brands Hatch to see what happens with the other storylines we've followed over the last few weeks.